Waking up at 3 a.m. again for no clear reason. Not because of noise, not because of a nightmare. Your eyes just open suddenly in the dark. Your body feels exhausted and heavy, but your brain switches on instantly, and in seconds, your mind is already racing. Thoughts begin moving faster than you can control. Your mind refuses to shut off no matter how tired you feel. You try to relax and drift back to sleep again, but the more you try, the more alert your brain becomes. Minutes start passing while you stare into the darkness, and deep down, you start asking the same question again. Why does this keep happening night after night? Why do some people wake up at 3 a.m. completely exhausted, yet their brain suddenly shifts into what feels like full alert mode? Why does the mind begin racing right when the body needs rest the most? And why does it become harder to sleep through the night, especially after 40? Sleep science has started uncovering something unexpected about this moment, something that explains why the brain refuses to stay asleep. But to understand it, we first need to look at something most insomnia advice ignores. I'm Dr. Sarah, a sleep medicine specialist with a background in psychiatry. For more than a decade, I have studied what really happens inside the brain during the night, and during that time, thousands of patients have described the exact same pattern. They tell me they can usually fall asleep without much trouble at first, but then something strange begins happening a few hours later. Their sleep suddenly breaks in the middle of the night, and once they wake up, going back to sleep feels almost impossible. Many of them describe waking up around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. without any clear trigger. The room is quiet and nothing around them has changed, yet their brain suddenly feels active and alert again. Thoughts begin to appear one after another without control. Their mind keeps moving even though their body feels exhausted. And the harder they try to relax, the more awake they seem to become. It feels as if the brain simply refuses to shut down. This is when people start believing something is wrong with them. They assume they are dealing with severe insomnia or chronic stress. But the pattern they describe is surprisingly consistent. They wake up suddenly and experience a racing mind at night. Then they lie awake for long periods trying to fall asleep again. And by morning, they wake up feeling drained instead of restored, even after spending hours in bed. What makes this pattern even more common is age. Many adults who never had sleep problems before begin noticing it after 40. Hormonal shifts start affecting how the brain regulates sleep signals. The circadian rhythm becomes slightly more sensitive over time, and small changes in cortisol can influence nighttime alertness more easily. This is why people who struggle with insomnia after 40 often feel confused because the problem seems to appear almost out of nowhere. But what sleep science has started revealing over the last few years is important. This pattern is rarely caused by simple overthinking or stress alone. In fact, many people experiencing this live healthy and balanced lives. They follow good routines and still wake up during the night, which means something deeper is happening in the brain's sleep system, a mechanism that quietly activates without people realizing anything unusual is happening. And once it activates, it changes how the brain behaves during sleep. Understanding this completely changes how we see insomnia, because the brain is not randomly waking you up in the night, and it is not failing to do its job either. In many cases, the brain is actually responding to something very specific, something connected to how the nervous system protects the body at night. A biological response that sleep researchers have been studying closely. And in the next part, we'll look at what that response actually is. Most people think insomnia always means the same thing. They assume it simply means you cannot fall asleep at night. So the entire focus becomes trying to make sleep start. People try relaxing techniques, quiet music, or strict routines, and sometimes those methods help a little in the beginning. But for many adults, the real problem isn't falling asleep. The real problem begins hours after sleep has already started. This is why so many people describe a confusing pattern. They lie down at night and fall asleep without much trouble. Their body relaxes and the first part of sleep feels normal. But several hours later, something unexpected suddenly happens. Their eyes open in the middle of the night without warning, often at the exact same time, around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. And from that moment forward, sleep becomes very fragile. Once the brain wakes up, everything begins to shift. The mind feels faster and more alert than before. Thoughts appear even if you are trying to stay calm. Your nervous system quietly moves into a more active state. Your heart rate may feel slightly elevated. Your body is tired, but your brain becomes watchful again, and sleep no longer feels deep or stable. This is when people start describing the same frustrating feeling. They say their body feels ready for sleep, their eyes feel heavy, and their muscles are relaxed, but their mind refuses to slow down. Thoughts continue moving in the background of the night, and no matter how much they try to relax, their brain stays active, which is why so many people say my brain just won't shut off. At that point, the brain is no longer in full sleep mode. It has quietly shifted into something closer to alert mode, not a full awakening like during the day, but a subtle state of nighttime vigilance, a state where the brain monitors the environment more carefully. And when that happens, falling asleep again becomes much harder, even though the body still desperately needs rest. So the real question becomes much deeper than simple insomnia. Why would the brain suddenly interrupt sleep like this? Why does it switch from deep rest into alertness during the night? And why does it happen so often around the same time? Sleep researchers have been studying this pattern closely, and modern sleep science now has a name for this shift, a response that completely changes how we understand insomnia. Researchers in modern sleep neuroscience describe this pattern with a specific name. They call it the Neural Sleep Inhibition Response. It is not a disease, and it is not a psychological weakness. It is a biological state where the brain temporarily blocks deeper stages of sleep, and it often activates without the person realizing anything unusual is happening. Many people only notice the moment when they suddenly wake up, but the process inside the brain begins earlier than that moment. This response is part of the brain's built-in safety system. During sleep, the brain constantly monitors internal and external signals. It evaluates hormone levels, nervous system activity, and circadian timing. Most of the time, these signals allow the brain to stay deeply asleep. But if the brain senses instability in those signals, it reacts. And that reaction can quietly interrupt the normal sleep cycle, even when the person has done nothing wrong at all. When the neural sleep inhibition response activates, subtle changes begin to occur. The nervous system shifts slightly toward a more active state, breathing becomes a little lighter, and sleep depth decreases. At the same time, cortisol can rise earlier than the brain expects. This hormonal shift is small but very meaningful to the brain, because cortisol is one of the body's natural alertness signals, and the brain pays very close attention to it during the night. As those signals increase, the brain begins adjusting its behavior. Instead of maintaining deep sleep cycles, it reduces sleep intensity. The brain moves closer to what sleep researchers call brain alert mode. It is not full wakefulness like during the day, but it is no longer the deep restorative state the body needs. The brain becomes more aware of its surroundings, and sleep starts becoming unstable. Once the brain reaches that alert threshold, the sleep cycle can break. This is when people suddenly find themselves awake in the dark, often without any noise or disturbance around them. Their eyes open, and they immediately feel mentally awake. Sometimes the clock shows 3 a.m., sometimes a little earlier, but the experience feels strangely similar for many people. It feels as if the brain decided to wake up on its own. And this is where the situation becomes even more confusing, because waking up is only part of what the neural sleep inhibition response does. The real challenge begins after the awakening happens. The brain does not easily return to its deeper sleep state. Instead, it stays partially alert and continues monitoring the environment, which is why so many people suddenly experience a racing mind at night. And what happens next explains why falling asleep again becomes so difficult. Once the neural sleep inhibition response activates, the brain begins operating differently. It no longer maintains the same deep sleep rhythm it had earlier in the night. Instead, it gradually shifts into a lighter and more watchful state. Sleep researchers often describe this as a form of nighttime vigilance. The brain becomes more sensitive to signals both inside and outside the body. Even subtle changes begin to attract its attention, and that shift quietly alters the entire sleep experience. This is why so many people suddenly notice their thoughts returning. A moment earlier, they were deeply asleep without awareness, but now the mind begins generating ideas and memories again. Random thoughts can appear without any obvious reason. Sometimes they are small concerns about the next day. Sometimes they are completely unrelated memories or plans. But once they begin, the brain becomes increasingly engaged with them. At the same time, the body still feels extremely tired. Your muscles remain relaxed and your eyes feel heavy. You know you should still be sleeping at that moment, but your mind seems to move faster than your body can follow. It becomes difficult to stop the stream of thoughts. Even trying to relax can make the brain feel more active, and this contrast creates a frustrating experience. That is why so many people describe the exact same sensation. They say their body wants to sleep, but their mind refuses. They feel mentally alert even while physically exhausted. And the more they focus on trying to fall asleep again, the more their attention stays active and engaged, which makes the brain even more aware of being awake. And that awareness keeps the alert state going longer. What is important to understand is that the brain is not trying to sabotage sleep. It is responding to signals that suggest the environment may need monitoring. This response evolved as part of the brain's survival system. During lighter sleep stages, the brain can react faster to potential threats. So, when those signals appear, the brain becomes more vigilant, and deep sleep temporarily becomes less of a priority, even if the person consciously wants to stay asleep. If those alert signals do not settle down, sleep becomes fragmented. The brain keeps shifting between shallow sleep and partial wakefulness. That is why falling back asleep can take so long, and it is also why people often wake up feeling tired the next morning. Their body never returned fully to deep restorative sleep cycles. But there is another reason this pattern becomes more common with age, and understanding that shift after 40 reveals an important part of the puzzle. After the age of 40, the brain begins experiencing subtle biological shifts. These changes do not happen overnight, but they gradually affect sleep stability. Many people who slept normally for decades suddenly notice new nighttime patterns. They may start waking up in the middle of the night without explanation, often around the same window, between 2 and 3 in the morning. At first, it feels random and confusing, but sleep science shows these awakenings often follow predictable biological changes. One of the first shifts involves melatonin, the hormone that supports nighttime sleep. As we age, melatonin release tends to become slightly weaker and shorter. The brain still produces it, but the signal may not stay as stable through the night. This means deep sleep cycles can become more fragile over time. The body may still fall asleep normally in the beginning of the night, but maintaining that depth of sleep for several hours becomes harder, and this is when the brain becomes more sensitive to interruptions. Another change happens in the circadian rhythm, the body's internal clock. The circadian system becomes more reactive to environmental and hormonal signals. Small changes in light exposure or stress hormones carry more influence. The brain begins adjusting its sleep timing more quickly than before. Even subtle fluctuations during the night can affect sleep stability. This increased sensitivity is completely natural with age, but it can also make nighttime awakenings more likely. At the same time, the body becomes more responsive to cortisol fluctuations. Cortisol is a hormone that naturally rises in the early morning hours. Its purpose is to help prepare the brain to wake up for the day. But after 40, the brain may react more strongly to even small increases. If cortisol rises slightly earlier than expected, the brain can interpret that signal as a cue to increase alertness, and this can trigger the neural sleep inhibition response more easily. When this response activates, the brain moves out of deep sleep faster. Instead of staying in restorative sleep cycles, it becomes more watchful. This is why people who never had sleep problems before suddenly notice change. They begin waking up around 3 a.m. without any obvious cause. Their mind feels alert even though their body is still tired. And once awake, it becomes difficult to stay asleep through the night, a pattern that feels new and frustrating for many adults. But there is an important detail most people are never told. These changes do not mean the brain is permanently damaged, and they do not mean insomnia must become a lifelong condition. The brain remains remarkably adaptable throughout adulthood. Even after 40, it can relearn how to stabilize sleep signals. It can reduce the triggers that activate nighttime alertness. But understanding how that process works reveals something most people never expect next. Think of your brain like a nighttime security system. Its primary job during sleep is not only rest, but also protection. Even while you are asleep, the brain continues scanning signals quietly. It checks the nervous system, hormone levels, and internal stability. Most nights, everything remains balanced and calm, so the brain allows sleep to move naturally through its cycles, and the body restores itself without interruption. When the brain feels safe, the nervous system begins slowing down, breathing becomes steady, and muscles relax deeply. Melatonin rises and helps guide the body into deeper sleep stages. The circadian rhythm keeps the entire system synchronized. Each sleep cycle flows smoothly into the next. The brain lowers its level of vigilance, and sleep remains stable for most of the night. But the brain never completely turns its monitoring system off. It always watches for signals that suggest something may be wrong. Those signals do not have to be dramatic or dangerous. Sometimes they are extremely subtle changes inside the body. A small hormonal fluctuation or nervous system activation, a shift in internal chemistry the brain doesn't fully expect. And when the brain detects those signals, it reacts immediately.
This reaction is like an internal alarm system activating. The brain increases its level of awareness during sleep. It becomes more sensitive to what is happening internally. Instead of staying in deep, restorative sleep cycles, it begins preparing the body for possible wakefulness. That protective alarm response is what researchers call the Neural Sleep Inhibition Response. And once it activates, sleep behavior begins to change. When this response is active, deep sleep becomes harder to maintain. The brain gradually shifts toward a lighter state of awareness. Instead of deep restoration, it moves closer to brain alert mode. Sleep cycles become shorter and more fragile. The brain stays partially attentive to internal signals, and eventually the sleep cycle can break entirely, which is when people suddenly wake up during the night. This awakening often happens around 3 a.m. during a sensitive circadian window. Hormone levels naturally begin shifting during these early morning hours. Even a small cortisol rise can catch the brain's attention, and when the brain is already monitoring those signals closely, the neural sleep inhibition response can trigger a full awakening. But once you understand how this security system works, a much more important question begins to appear next. When the brain begins receiving the right signals again, something interesting happens. The internal alert system slowly starts lowering its sensitivity at night. The brain no longer feels the need to monitor every small change. Instead of preparing for wakefulness, it begins favoring restoration again. Sleep cycles start stabilizing in the background of the night, and the nervous system gradually releases its heightened vigilance. This shift does not feel dramatic, but it is very real. The first system to calm down is usually the nervous system itself. Breathing becomes deeper and more regular during sleep. Muscle tension that once lingered during the night begins to fade. The brain reduces the small alert signals it was sending earlier. Instead of staying partially vigilant, it allows deeper relaxation. This makes it easier for the body to remain in stable sleep cycles, and the brain slowly moves away from constant alert monitoring. Another important change involves cortisol timing during the night. When the sleep system stabilizes, cortisol stops rising prematurely. Instead, it follows its natural early morning rhythm again. The brain no longer receives false signals that something is wrong. This prevents the alert system from activating unexpectedly, which reduces the chances of sudden nighttime awakenings and allows the sleep cycle to continue uninterrupted. At the same time, the circadian rhythm begins realigning itself. The brain synchronizes hormone signals more smoothly overnight. Melatonin can remain active for the full duration of sleep. The body maintains deeper, restorative sleep phases longer. This stability helps prevent the neural sleep inhibition response from triggering, and the brain no longer needs to interrupt sleep cycles for protection. Gradually, nighttime becomes biologically quieter again. Most people first notice subtle improvements when this shift begins. They wake up less frequently during the night. If they do wake up briefly, they fall asleep again much faster. Their mind no longer races the moment they open their eyes. Sleep begins feeling heavier and more restorative. Morning fatigue slowly starts fading away, and nights feel less unpredictable than before. Eventually, many people find themselves sleeping through the night again, not because the brain was forced to shut down artificially, but because the biological alarm system stops activating unnecessarily. The brain finally feels safe enough to stay in deep sleep. The neural sleep inhibition response becomes less active, and the sleep system regains its natural rhythm, which leads to an important question about what kind of support helps this process most. Once people understand how the brain protects sleep, their perspective begins to change. The goal is no longer forcing the body to shut down at night. Instead, the focus becomes helping the brain restore its natural stability. Because when the brain feels safe again, sleep returns more naturally. The sleep system was designed to work through balance, not pressure. When the biology behind sleep becomes stable again, the brain relaxes, and the night begins to feel quieter inside the nervous system. Many people try to solve insomnia by forcing sleep with medication. Sedatives can create temporary drowsiness and help someone fall asleep faster, but sedation does not always stabilize the deeper sleep systems in the brain. The internal alarm signals that interrupt sleep can still remain active, which means the brain may still wake up during the night, even if the person initially fell asleep without difficulty. And this is why some people continue waking up at 3 a.m. despite trying different solutions. Sleep specialists increasingly focus on a different approach. Instead of suppressing wakefulness, they support the biology behind the sleep switch. The goal is helping the brain maintain stable signals throughout the night. That includes supporting healthy melatonin communication with the brain, helping the nervous system remain calm during sleep cycles, and maintaining balanced cortisol rhythms that follow the circadian clock. When those systems work together, the brain feels far less need to activate alert mode. When that biological balance improves, something important begins to happen. The neural sleep inhibition response becomes less likely to activate overnight. The brain remains comfortable staying in deeper sleep stages. Nighttime awakenings become less frequent and less intense, and the mind no longer jumps immediately into racing thoughts. Sleep cycles begin connecting smoothly again, allowing the body to restore itself more fully through the night. This is why some sleep specialists recommend natural nighttime support. Certain formulas are designed to help stabilize these biological signals. They aim to support melatonin pathways and nervous system relaxation, and they may also help maintain healthier cortisol timing during sleep. When used alongside healthy sleep habits, they can support sleep stability. One option many people explore is a doctor-approved natural sleep support formula. You can find more details about it in the first pinned comment below this video. But there is another important piece most people never hear about. Because the brain does not randomly wake people up at 3 a.m., there is actually a very specific biological window during the night, a period when the brain becomes more sensitive to internal hormone shifts, especially small changes involving cortisol and circadian timing. During that window, the brain's alert system becomes easier to trigger, and this timing is closely connected to the neural sleep inhibition response. In the next video pinned here on the channel, I will explain something surprising.
why the brain often enters brain alert mode between 3 a.m. and 3:30 a.m., what internal signal can activate that response during this time, and why it happens even in people who fall asleep normally. You will also see what helps the brain remain stable through that window, because once that timing becomes clear, the pattern stops feeling mysterious, and those middle-of-the-night awakenings begin making much more biological sense.